Hey everybody, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me today for an episode where we are going to talk about a massive sale that I just made. Sold the entire stack of vintage cards that you see in front of you. A little bit bittersweet, but really no regrets at all about the transaction. Going to get into the details here and kind of get these on video one last time before I get them packaged up. Just about to head out to the post office and just wanted to commemorate this set for the channel and for my own recollection in the future. So this is a set of cards that I actually talked about way back in episode number 58 of my channel. It is the 21 card complete set of the 1958 Topps All-Stars. Now, this is a set that I put together more than 10 years ago now. Started on it really right when I got back into the hobby around 2007, 2008. And they're from a time when I will freely admit I was buying the grade, not the card. So you'll notice as I go through these, all 21 of these are in a PSA 6. That's not coincidence. I sought them out in a 6 specifically because I just didn't really know any better when I first got back into the hobby. I was collecting anything I could get my hands on, still learning my way around vintage. I thought I would be just collecting every card from the 50s. Was a little bit naive at the time. And as the years have gone by, I've considered selling this. These are the first All-Star cards ever produced by Topps as an All-Star subset. So obviously this is chock full of Hall of Famers within these 21 cards. The AL cards have a red background. The NL have a blue background. They're gorgeous cards. So I'm not selling these because I have any issue with this set. And in fact, I may buy a couple of these back with some of the proceeds that I made. I simply decided to part with these because I'm collecting in a different way and I have a different eye than I used to when I accumulated these. So as I said, 10, 15 years ago when I bought all these, I was buying the grade. I wanted these in a PSA 6, and this is actually the first set registry that I ever completed. Ended up getting all 21 of them in a PSA 6 grade. But now when I look back on them, I don't appreciate them as much. They've largely sat in a box for the last few years, only take them out on rare occasion, and they're not really up to the centering standards that I look for in vintage cards. That's really the number one eye appeal attribute that I've come to appreciate over the years. But when I bought these, I didn't have that mindset. So a lot of these are off center here, like Stan Musial, great card. This is one of the few that I would like to buy back at some point, but I would be happy with this card in a 3 or a 4 that's well centered. For less money than I'd probably get for this PSA 6. So flipping through them here, not all of these are cards that I'd even want to replace. While I would like to look for a Musial someday, don't expect to get another Bill Skowron. It's a fine card. It's just not high on my list as far as vintage collecting goes. I have come to the realization that I'm not a set collector. I think initially I was maybe considering pursuing the 58 Topps set, which is why I grabbed all of these. But that's just not really my thing these days. And, here's another one wildly off center, and Johnny Temple. I'm, no disrespect to Reds fans or Johnny Temple fans, but when I look at this card, it doesn't really bring me joy. I'm not really sure why I have it in my collection other than, being afraid to let things go and hanging on to things. I'm trying to do a better job about that. Made some big sales earlier in the year that I turned into some significant cards, and we'll certainly do that with the proceeds here. And some of these, I crunched the numbers. Basically what happened here, I got an offer via the PSA set registry where I do have this complete set listed. Very generous offer. This person has reached out in the past and I've actually turned them down. But at this time I was ready and I crunched the numbers. I did all my research on kind of what these would set me back in today's market in a PSA 6, based on recent sales, recent completed sales, all within the last month, trying to find examples that are similar condition-wise to these. Like this Eddie Mathews is probably one of the better ones in the lot, and one that I am sad to see go because this is the quality that I would look for nowadays in terms of centering. So this is one of the few that is sort of up to snuff with what I'd go after these days, but he's not a player that I would necessarily put at the top of my list. And it was advantageous to let all of these go at once because while there are some big cards, there are also smaller cards like Frank Malzone or Johnny Temple, who we saw a minute ago. And the thought of listing all of these individually in lots, which I'd considered doing, It's going to require a lot of time and effort on my part, which is not a problem. I've done it before. But I suspect that, while the Mickey Mantle and the Hank Aaron may sell, relatively quickly if I price them right, I'll be stuck with guys like, Frank Malzone and Johnny Temple long after those good cards are gone. And so the opportunity to let all these go at once to the same buyer in the same collection was just too good to pass up. So I crunched the numbers on this. I added up the total of what I think these would fetch on eBay, subtracted eBay's exorbitant fees, where I had to list them on eBay, and came up with a number that I thought I would probably take home if I were to put in the many hours of work selling all these. Now, keep in mind also, when I ship graded cards like this, I protect them with cardboard and or bubble wrap, put them in a bubble mailer, and they cost between $5 and $6 a card to mail out. And when you're looking at 21 cards, that's not insignificant either. It probably would have cost me somewhere around $100, maybe a little under 100 if I got lucky and got some repeat buyers, to ship all of these out as well, in addition to the eBay fees. Here's another example of just a card that I would not buy today. I love this card. At the time when I picked this up, it was my first and only playing era Ted Williams. So for that, it was fine, and it held a special place in my collection for years. But I've since been fortunate enough to land some other Williams cards that I like more than this one. And this is about as off-center as you can possibly get, but a very clean copy other than that. So this is a card I would have liked to have moved on from anyway. Same here with the Willie Mays. Not quite as bad as the Ted Williams, but still pretty off-center left to right and a little bit top to bottom as well. And this was maybe the most painful card for me to let go because it was my first playing era Mickey Mantle that I picked up. And much like the Ted Williams was the only one in my collection for a while, this is a card that I will probably buy back with a small percentage of the proceeds. But yeah, just an offer that was too good to pass up. So the offer that was made to me was within about $100 total of what I thought I could get best case scenario by breaking all of these down and selling them. And it was an offer well in excess of $1,000. It was a 4-figure offer. And I figured for $100 difference, which I may lose in shipping anyway, it was time to move on from these as one lot, keep them together, not have the hassle of dealing with multiple different buyers and many auctions and stretching out the breakdown of this collection over months or even years of time. So yeah, a little bit bittersweet, but you know what? I still achieved the collecting milestone of completing this set. And as I said, it's just not something that's a fit for my collection anymore. Here's another example, Ed Bailey. This probably would have sat on my eBay store for a long time unless I priced it super aggressively. So yeah, all of these going out the window. Very pleased. Probably, I kind of counted, there are only about 5 of these cards, maybe 6, that I would ever be interested in owning again. And so getting rid of 21 and maybe even using some of that money to go, pick up a couple of these in a condition that's more fitting. It was just a great opportunity. And this is going to give me kind of a war chest of hobby funds that I can spread in the coming months into, maybe just one big card or a couple big cards or quite a few smaller cards, make some room in my hobby room, which I've been aiming to do for some time now. And yeah, it just feels good. This is something that I wouldn't have done years ago, but as I talked about at the beginning of the year and have mentioned a couple times since on my channel, kind of taking the approach of a revolving door a little bit more so these days with the collection than I used to. And didn't take me too long to decide to move on. So yeah, just wanted to commemorate these on video because I do think it was a cool collecting accomplishment, even if my standards and what I look for in a vintage card have changed over the years, and these aren't necessarily home run fits for my collection anymore. It was the first set that I ever finished on the registry, and was something cool to say that I've completed in my collecting lifetime. So there are the cards that are on their way out the door. Probably an example where the registry is working to my advantage in 2 ways. People are willing to pay more, or this buyer is probably willing to pay more for these, knowing that they're graded a 6 because either he himself or other registry members will like to add them to their set to increase their score. But it also worked in my favor because that's how I was able to find this buyer. I had this set listed on the registry as public, meaning they could see my email address, and I was open to people communicating to me about the set. And so that, setting and that registry got me in touch with this buyer and saved me a tremendous amount of money. If I had sold this same lot on eBay for the same price that I sold it for, it would have cost me easily, $100 to $200 more in fees than the very minor PayPal fee that kind of offset a little bit of this transaction. And I actually negotiated back on the original offer and added some funds to cover my fee and my mailing of the cards so that my actual walkaway profit was what I wanted it to be for these cards. And again, was, in excess of $1,000. So sad to see these go. You may see some of them come back into my collection in different forms in the future. And at the very least, I definitely have some money here to go hunting with. And it'll be fun to see what I can turn up and kind of turn these cards into on the open market. So thank you for stopping in. As I kind of say au revoir to my 58 Topps All-Star set. Certainly appreciate you stopping by. Would love to hear from you in the comments on whether you've ever sold any lots like this or what you think of my move. I suppose it depends on what I end up using the money for. So I certainly understand that. But any feedback, would love to hear from you. And I will certainly be back in the very near future with some more sports card content. Till then, take care and enjoy the hobby, everybody.